Okay, welcome back, everybody, to Erotic Wisdom, the fascinating wonderment to be living in a body. And here today in my beloved studio, the Laboratory of Love, that is my home, that is the extension of my body. I've got beautiful Leonard Lowe. Ciao, Leonard.
Hey, Valentina.
Did I say your name right?
It's perfecto.
Yeah, perfecto. I'm always going to this Italian's attempt of the Afrikaans name.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll do a little bit of Afrikaans Spanish.
Pan-Africanish. All right, so here we are together today, and Leonard is a dear friend of mine, and today I invited him here with the intention of having a chat around his book, because he just released a beautiful book called Jump, and it's a memoir of his last 5 years journey into this season, the new season of your life. So the book, it's about, I think, 4 years journey around the world. Is it a 4 years journey?
Yeah, five. You're around about 5 years, yeah.
Yeah.
4 or 5 years, yeah.
Wow, that's half a decade. It's a beautiful long journey. And and I speak about how he transformed and expanded his life from being involved in corporate and business and financial world to now being imbibed into the spiritual and sexual exploration and self-development and the enjoyment of living in a body. I guess you really embody now the fascinating wonderment to be living in a body. And there is a lot of erotic wisdom that come through your book. That's why I think you're a very appropriate guest of this show. And maybe you wanna...
Yeah, it's wonderful being here, Valentina. It's always wonderful talking to you. Love your energy and what you bring to the world. And yeah, thank you. It's great to have this conversation. Appreciate that. And yes, amazing. Yes, you're right. 4 or 5 years around the world, 35 countries. Just really living the magic of the universe, and you're really open to and receptive to the magic that's all around us that we don't always see. So really open and expanded, and
It sounded, when I read the book, that was your introduction to erotic wisdom, to the wise way to live in the world according to the wisdom of the body, instead of just following the mind that tricks and trigger and avoids and is terrified to being discovered and uncovered, and the body longing for true connection and with humans, with self, but also with reality at large, with nature and the invisible realm. It's been really beautiful reading your book, actually, because it's very vulnerable. One thing I really honor you, it's your courage. I mean, I was speaking about it yesterday, and we had this conversation. When I picked up your book first, then we had a lunch, and the first question I asked you, have your kids read the book? Because you've got 2 children in their early 20s, pretty much, yeah?
Yes, my son is now, God, what is he? He's 22 now, and my daughter 20. They were 15 and 17 when I started the journey, and they often, I'm sure we'll talk a bit about that, accompanied me for their school holidays, would come out to me wherever I was, and we would travel backpack together, very basic, staying in a hostel together, and so so they've seen part of the journey, and lived it in a way. To answer your question, no, they haven't read it yet. I've given them each a copy, and they both. You'll see in the book they appear there, and they are such conscious beings, and they're so open, and we discuss sexuality and everything. It's amazing. They are what they discuss with me. So that's just really wonderful to have that in my life. But they haven't read the book. I asked my boy the other day, I asked my son the other day, and he said, Dad, I'm a little bit scared to read it. But when the time is right, they will read it. But they've got a bit of an insight to it. They were at the book launch that we had in the book lounge here in Cape Town. Quite packed, quite a big book launch, and they were there. And my publisher, Melinda Ferguson, we had really very open, direct questions there and stated some stuff, so they know a bit of what's in the book. So I don't think it would be too big a shock.
Yeah, but it's hard to look at your father and your parents as human beings. And also this thing that as grown up, we do have an active sexual life. And I remember when I was 17, I believed that my mother, that was then 44, didn't have any sex. No, little did I know that, we saw still quite active and even saw more. Sure. Because sexuality becomes such a bigger journey. It's not just about the body. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's a big piece and as parents, perhaps also we don't really want to accept that our kids, some generally, parents struggle to accept that also children are sexually active. There is this taboo a little bit into interrelationship, family relationship. And I mean, your book, the beginning of your book is highly erotic, borderline hot pornography, which is like really catchy, because I remember a lady gave me the book when I collect the book, your book, another friend passed it on to me. And she told me, you make sure you bypass the first few chapters because it's quite intense, but then it gets better. And when I picked the book, I thought, fuck, the first 3-4 chapters were really, really hot. And I thought, what do you mean it gets better? It can't get better than this. So I think you started it in a really good way. I really honor you. It was very courageous because, of course, you really exposed yourself. And I think coming from a conservative background and work, and everybody's gonna read your book. Your work colleague, your kids, your ex-girlfriend, your friend that maybe had no clue about your life, and you really open yourself up completely. Drug addiction, sex addiction, it's a big taboo. And, how does it feel? Is the ultimate liberation perhaps to just put it all out there?
Yeah, no, exactly. And I often tell people that, not everyone, but some people, when they get a book, I say to them, just go through the first 3 chapters, just hang in there, go through it, Because there's obviously, this book has got a lot of triggers for a lot of people. You can imagine that. There's so many, and we can talk maybe about that. Both for women, both for men, both for people with kind of on the money part. Both. There's so many triggers on this. But but then you get people like you that actually those first 3 chapters are just beautiful and wonderful, and it's experience, life experience.
They were also hot. You write really well, and I think it's like we all have sexual desire.
Sure.
It's in our being, and I think to begin with that, to break the ice and really come really vulnerable with what we all dream or desire to do. And I imagine many people only have fantasy about what you were doing and never really implemented in their life. And
sure
and I thought was very real, made it really, really real.
No, thanks. For me it was. Now, when I wrote this book, memoir, I thought if I'm going to write a memoir, if I'm not authentic and open, why bother?
Yeah.
And I think that first part, and it's this, it's basically the first 20, it's only about 25, 30 pages of the 260 pages or so, about that five years in Cape Town before I left, the crazy wild times in Cape Town. But, it was so important to be authentic and to be real about that. Because later in the book, I write about a lot of other stuff and a lot of, learnings and awakenings and awarenesses and stuff, and to be authentic about that, without being authentic about the stuff before, it's not really, that's not really fully authentic. Yeah. So I felt it was important to put it out there. And what I think, what I find is that it is also creating, a link for a lot of people, living that life. It makes it real. It makes it real for, I kind of hate the word mainstream, but the broader scope of people out there can relate. And I think that's...
Exactly. That's what I feel. And also, a lot of people that work hard and then party hard damage themselves really hard.
Yes.
And we still believe that this mainstream way of living in the world is the way, is the mainstream way, and is what is taught at school, you know. Work hard, make good money, and then we don't talk about what you do in your free time. We don't care, when in reality that's really important, because that's how you build yourself as a human. And you start in that is a very disruptive way. Even your sexuality at the beginning is so edgy, so intense, that is disruptive. In fact, you break your cock. That was also a piece.
Chapter 3.
Yes, snap. I thought, fuck, that was something. It's like, never heard of this. You know, as a tantra teacher, borderline sex therapist, I've seen a lot of people with sexual story and issue. Never came across of a broken cock. So I was like, oh, that's educative as well. I'm learning something.
Oh, beautiful. It is beautiful. That was very sore. And,
it was very sore.
and the chapter is called Snap, chapter 3. And wow, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, there was also a piece, and men would never speak about this. So also, what I think is super powerful about this piece, that you are a beautiful man, very much in your masculinity, not a macho man. And so the fact that you expose the vulnerability of your sexuality, to me, it's so beautiful, because I think it can really help many men to learn how to be tender and vulnerable and gentle guys in the contemporary world. And so I really see this transition in masculinity. And for you to open this channel and to expose it and to walk around and to be public about it and to be seen, and you're a beautiful, attractive man and very present. I think you can make a real living example for a lot of men that are in a crisis and in how to find themselves. And so, that the cock that is a symbol of strong masculinity can also break, because it's also very tender, because it's also very sensitive. I did my last podcast, actually, I had a conversation at the festival, you were also there, with Shima, and she really spoke about how tender is the masculine male lingam, the penis, and often is used by men as a hammer, and that's how you were also using it at the beginning of your book,
Exactly, Valentina, and that's so amazing, and that's, I often say, there's so much written and spoken about women's sexuality, but very little about men's sexuality, and men's vulnerability, and And I spoke to someone actually at the same festival at the Learning Clan, who had this discussion in a group at some point, and I spoke to some people, and something I said, and someone asked a question, and we spoke about the vulnerability of the lingam, of the cock, of the penis, and some of the women were really surprised that a man can be I'm actually quite vulnerable now who I penetrate, because I'm the vulnerability of your cock. So I'm and that's the beauty of this journey. So it started very much, dropping into my emotions and my feeling, so I was very much in my masculine before, and in this journey of the 5 years, dropping into my emotions and dropping into the feminine parts of myself and integrating that. And then that actually following through in terms of actually sexuality, and now really understanding, the vulnerability from a man point of view. And I think a lot of men sit with that, but they don't really understand it, or they haven't really explored it. And I think it's beautiful, I think, for women to also hear that vulnerability exists not just for a woman, lying. And I mean, we did some of those sacred spot massages, that's what we talk about in the book, but not just for a woman, lying on her back with her legs open and being penetrated. Obviously, that is quite vulnerable, and everyone sees that as vulnerable. But what is not always that clear for a man then to enter a woman. That's actually really vulnerable also. Once they are connected to their heart and to their emotions. If you're not and you distance yourself from that and it's just, about, as you say, using it as a hammer and fucking, there's a place for everything.
Running yourself inside the body of a woman instead of gently, cautiously explore this uncharted territory, because every penetration, it's a new movement into the mystery. It's always new. If we understand it, that every time is new, then the penis is very vulnerable because it goes in head first. That's exactly. It doesn't know where it's going. It's this dark place, and it's going in this.
So, if I heard myself now, let's say 5-7 years ago, I was listening to this interview, I would have thought, what the hell? What drugs is this guy on? I want some of those good stuff. But, because obviously it wouldn't have made any sense to me. I would what are you talking about? I'm not being vulnerable. I've got this strong hard cock and, I just fuck who I want, and it's always a beautiful, even those 20-30 pages was always beautiful consensual, and it was with friends, at my home and there and on the Clifton Beach crazy parties, but it wasn't very conscious. But whilst now I'm just in such a different place, I still love penetrating women, but it just comes from a different place now. And I really kind of don't do that easily anymore, or that often.
It's a big responsibility.
It's beautiful.
It's you speak about in the book. You realize that it's a massive responsibility to enter the mystery.
It's a big decision. It's a big moment. It's easy to move energy around and someone on a dance floor and even afterwards and energetically make love. But I do find that for me now to penetrate is, it's very vulnerable. I go there, I go there very with big awareness.
It's like taking, as you speaking, I'm having these images coming in my mind. Even like taking medicine plants, like in my early days, I used to take hallucinogenic to escape life.
Yeah.
And now I take medicine plants, which has a hallucinogenic component, to enter life.
Yeah, beautiful.
To understand life and bring that back into my wisdom. And sexuality becomes the same. The beginning of your book is clear that you fucking to release tension at work. You fucking because you might not really are aligned to what you do. You need to, there is that sense of looking for something there. But of course, without the vulnerability, if you never admit it, that's never going to be a teacher. But when you become vulnerable, then sexuality become a practice to enter life, not to escape it.
Yeah, that's exactly.
But to really enter the wisdom of living.
That's exactly. And then that's, further in my book, I talk so much about that, like making love to a woman is like, with an open heart is then you're ready to get to know God,
Yes.
Making love with God and with the universe when you do that. And very much the same view, also use a little bit of plant medicine on the same basis now. And then definitely sexuality is very much like that,
Yeah, because it's trippy also when you go heart first instead of head
first.
first.
Man, there's some parts in the book there where, in Prague and, and then later in the book when I, connected there with a beautiful woman and afterwards, I was there for 2-3 months living in Prague, and afterwards we would go walk down next to the river afterward making love for like 2-3 hours. We had beautiful lovemaking. And fuck, I was high, I was higher than any drug I've taken before, just walking there, and it would last like hours and into the next day, like super high. And that is just from making love without anything, any other.
Because you develop this heightened sense of perception in the body. The whole body gets awakened, and that's what's the full body orgasm.
That's it.
It's a way of living, actually. It's not temporary.
Yes.
In the tantric tradition, in New Tantra, often we speak about 3-4 hours orgasm, and I see how people goes, oh wow, amazing, I want that. But in the tradition of Tantrism, we say 3 hours only, 6 hours only. What about a lifetime?
That's exactly.
We go for the lifetime orgasm.
That's exactly it.
That's where you come. That's your state of being heightened all the time.
Yes.
That never ends.
Yes.
And that's when you join in this state of flowing harmony that is already existing.
Yes.
But when you get penetrated, when you get wide open, also as a man, then you can let this reality vibration enter you. And then the orgasm, it's your state of being.
Yes, and exactly. And for me, it's different routes for different people and stuff. But for me, the sexuality and the life force energy was just such a powerful, fast route of getting there. I mean, I think it's also beautiful sitting on a mountain and meditate for 10 years. I don't know anything wrong with that. But and that's also part, I suppose, of the journey. But for me, entering the state by using the life force energy, making love, so like that example of like, if I was making love and then you go walk and you just walk in nature and you are actually still making love,
Yes,
you're not with the woman anymore.
Yeah.
She's kind of left to go to another place. You kind of walk out of the apartment. And you walk down the river for like a few kilometers, but you're still making love. You're making love with the trees and the river and the universe.
The Gaia. You're with that other woman.
Yeah, with
Gaia.
the beautiful Gaia.
Pachamama.
Sexy as Pachamama.
Yeah, that's how to live a good life, no?
Yeah.
And also, one thing that really, really touched me about your book, I would like to talk a little bit about this because, I think the vulnerability of men, you spoke earlier of a woman lying on her back with her legs open, and many men just ram themselves inside a woman thinking of bringing something into her, either getting their own pleasure, so taking from her, or bringing something to her. But very few men understand the level of trust that a woman must have to open herself up in her depth. Sure. And I do believe if many men would have this experience themselves, then the quality, as you say, of penetrating a woman changes once you've been penetrated, once you know what it means, the level of relaxation that is required, the level of trust, the level of connection. And then as a man that penetrates after knowing what it means to be penetrated, wow, the awareness is completely different. And a woman can feel that. And then there is reverence, and then there is honoring. It's like, wow, you are letting me inside of you. Wow, thank you. Gratitude, humble reverence.
Sure.
And in the book you speak about this experience that you have few time of being penetrated ritualistically in a very safe container in a context of a retreat, and then you have this experience, and then along in the book sometimes later you speak how you have an experience of your heart really being really open to love with true compassion another man, and that for me was really beautiful, that after being penetrated so that your being is being open to life, you understood what it really means to love another man, that until that moment was never allowed for a man grown up in a traditional setting. Men must be macho and pat each other on the shoulder maybe, but not hug each other, not hold a hand, not tenderly holding each other. And yeah, would you like to speak a little bit into this?
Yes. Oh man, I just love sharing this, Valentina. So I, regarding the vulnerability of being penetrated, maybe start with that first, and for a woman and then for a man also. Yes, I mean for me, I've been lucky that I've always, I suppose in some way, I have always been kind of to some level quite connected to the inner feminine, because I've always been very aware, maybe also growing up with a lot of women, a mom and two younger sisters at home, I've always been quite sensitive about penetrating a woman too fast. I just kind of intuitively knew that, rather enter rather later than too early to be 100% sure she's ready. So even in the crazy Cape Town days of that 5 years, the first 20-30 pages in the book, where for a whole weekend, not sleeping, and like 2-3 women at home, and it was very much like that, and I suppose that's why the women kind of came back,
and brought their friends.
Yes, and brought some friends along and so on, and because I was very conscious about it, I was very much aware, and it just kind of happened. There was never any pressure on anyone. It was always just flowed. So in some level, I got it. I understood it. I understood it from a mind point of view, but I understood it from a mind point of view. So it was from a mind point of view, I know a woman, mustn't be entered too fast because that is not good for the setup of making love. So I got it in my mind. But what happened with me was in one of the, initiation 6-day workshops, that's probably more called an initiation than a workshop. These 6-day residential initiations that we went through. I did quite a number of them. The first one I did in Hawaii was where we did the sacred spot massage. First the yoni massage, with women, and then the women did it on the men. And so the woman that I chose, it's like a nature selection. You don't even know who you're going to get. And damn, that's vulnerable, So here I am. I've never had any, apart from a prostate check with a doctor, any kind of anal penetration before. And here I'm lying on my back with my legs open. And this, woman in front of me doing the massage. And then at a point, she asked me the question, are you ready? Are you ready? Can I penetrate you now? And I can't tell you, Valentina, what immense download I had that. The moment she asked me that question, I really got it, but not from a mind point of view, but from a full embodiment point, an experiential point of view. I really got it, what it is to be a woman and the vulnerability of a woman lying on her back and being penetrated. Because I was in the same situation, my legs open, I was fucking nervous. It's beautiful. And a tiny woman that was doing the massage on me, and when she asked that question, I had so much gratitude in my heart for her. It immediately relaxed me, And then she proceeded with a sacred spot, male sacred spot massage,
which is the prostate gland.
Which is the prostate gland, and I tell you, I don't think I would have gone for the training if I knew that involved that, because I think most men wouldn't. We can talk so much about men's anxiety and fear, or not just men, women also. The root chakra, gets kind of so contracted in fear and so much stuff, sitting there. But yes, so the moment that happened, and she asked that question, I just dropped into that, and then I didn't get it from a mind point of view. Then I got it from a body point of view. I really sensed that vulnerability. I was vulnerable. And her asking that question put me at ease. I felt safe, and then we could proceed. Isn't that amazing? And then afterwards, they put Sarong on you and they play some music, and it's in the book. Maybe I don't want to give too much away of it. But
I think that's a point of owning the surrender. Sometimes we think surrender is a passive action.
Yeah.
I'm on my back, I surrender.
Sure.
But it's not.
Yes.
It's active.
No,
I choose to surrender to this that is about to happen, to my opening, to my deeper unfolding. So I think what you say now, that when you were very scared and nervous, but when she asked you the question, something else happened.
Yes.
And you were ready because you took responsibility, that you were willing to surrender. It wasn't passive, it was active. That is an empowering piece.
That is so fucking important, and that is so important not just for men, but for women also in that space. Because I'm not a woman, so I don't want to kind of I'm aware of that. But I think often in that situation, women could be in a space where they allow and they don't have the act of surrender. Yes. You're going in allowing, they're going to be into it.
Surrender is passive.
Surrender is passive.
Exactly. I'll just lie here. But to be asked and to be said, okay, I'm going to allow this to happen. And it is scary. But I'm saying yes to it.
That's exactly.
Then becomes a spiritual connection.
That's exactly. And if they just allow, and then some other stuff happens, some hidden resentment come underneath the surface in the relationship. We'll talk about a lot.
But what happened to you then? Sorry, I interrupted you there. So let's go back to you. You said yes, and then.
Oh yes, yeah. And then, as you said, beautifully put, exactly. Then it was like, wow, I felt at ease, I felt safe, and then I could actively, surrender, and that's beautifully put. Yeah. And then later when the music was playing, and good God, man, once again, the experiential thing happening, even though, and it's quite clear in my book, even those crazy first few chapters, I've always had a lot of love and respect for women, even though, I had this so it always came from, I just love the feminine. I love the outer feminine, and now, but then when I was lying there and the music was playing, and I just dropped into such such compassion. Almost get emotional just thinking about it now. I dropped into such compassion for womanhood. I actually felt, the hurt and the damage over the thousands of years that has been caused to women. I'm sure to men also, but for that, in that point of view, I felt my inner kind of womanhood. It wasn't a mind thing. I could feel almost the woman inside me, and I could connect with the consciousness of womanhood, and being burned, which is on the stake, patriarchy, all of the stuff. I could really so sense that, and I started crying. I was lying there, crying, and the woman that was sitting with me was just sitting next to me, holding my hand, and it was such a beautiful experience. And you remember, this is now the guy, at the beginning of that training when, we had one of the emotional release exercises, from also started connecting with emotions. But prior to that, the last time I cried was at primary school, so I wasn't really a guy going around crying a lot, So it was a beautiful experience tapping into that, and a way to do it, not just into the emotional body, but also to tap into the inner feminine. And I'm a really firm believer, as Osho says, what in your mind or what you read in books, that's all cool, but it's just borrowed. It's only the stuff you really, really experience that's yours. So that was a beautiful gift for me. Experiencing that, it really became, I could feel it, I can now transmit it. It was a very, very grateful for the experience.
And then I've got a confused memory there. Did it happen again with Man on Man? Did you have another experience with the...
to get back to the second part of what you spoke about earlier. Yeah, then with men, what happened is, at a later training, and I don't want to give too much of the book away, but... and it was like...
But this is a good teaser. Everybody wants to buy this book.
Shall I talk about it?
To know.
Yeah, but we should give one of the later
too
trainings.
Many detail, but just...
Yeah, exactly. It's like in a later experience, you get different levels of some of these trainings, level 1, level 2, and there was a different level 2 or something. And this time, it wasn't gender specific. Good God. I mean... If I knew that, I would have definitely not gone to level 2. I would have wow. I mean, I'm quite happy with the woman. And then after that, I was quite happy, with the women, and there is in the book a lot about my time in Israel, sacred sexuality there. I was part of the community for 3 months, and Priestess Sharon, and we did a lot of the sacred spot. So I was quite comfortable then with the women doing it. But then it was a new experience now, in a nature selection, choosing a man in that space. And the interesting thing is, afterwards, I just felt so empowered. Going towards detail now. It wasn't a very long, it was relatively short. It was very tense, but afterwards, I felt so empowered, and it actually, in a way, changed my relationship with men in a big way. That, and then there's a later stage in Prague, which also changed my relationship with men in a big way, and now it actually shifted it, where, especially in countries like South Africa, I mean, not just South Africa, I mean, I think Australia, America, a lot of places similar, where men are not really, it's not, guys are not really tactile, you don't really, it's all like, Raphael, how are you, kind of thing. It's not, guys don't really hug each other. And after that, it really made me very comfortable just to stand there and hug a guy for like 30, 60 seconds, if I have someone in a workshop, a long hug, a long, real warm hug.
Yeah. And also in South Africa, homosexuality was also illegal until pretty recently.
Yes,
time.
and all of that.
So
and
to be friendly with a man was quite dangerous.
Yeah, and then, I mean, especially Cape Town, you walk around, you hug someone to you get all our different tags on you, so people are so scared, to be tactile with the guy. And the beauty of it is that it made me so comfortable with it. It didn't change my sexual preference. I'm still, I'm still not sexually attracted to men. But that's just a preference thing. That's not because of anything else. But now I can hug them and be with them, and I can be in a close heart space without thinking, now this is weird or strange.
Yeah.
Isn't that beautiful? You can be in a brotherly open heart space with other guys, which is beautiful. And I think that's what a lot of men are missing. A lot of men are missing, And, some of these trainings we really do, days where it's brotherhood day, and then it's a days where it's a sisterhood day. And, and I think a lot of men and women haven't experienced that brotherhood,
Yeah, because also, this came up recently also in my life and in my teaching, that when men don't trust each other, women can't trust men.
That's exactly.
Because if you don't trust your brother, why should I trust your brother?
Yes.
And often also in these practices where men are comfortable with partnering up with women are easy with each other, they always have been, but men are not easy with each other. And the point is for me that if a man cannot receive the body of another man, his own kind, it means he cannot actually receive himself. When a man thinks that a woman had sex with another man and is disgusting and he put his cock inside of you and big betrayal, it's because underneath this one man thinks his own cock is disgusting. Underneath he thinks that cock is dirty.
Yep.
So he thinks the other man is dirty, but underneath it all, that himself is dirty. And we women are exposed to this. And we feel it in our being too. So when a man doesn't trust himself and other men, I take that mistrust inside my body every time I make love with that man. And in a sense also hinder my ability to really surrender. Because if you don't trust yourself, why should I?
Yes.
You're giving me hints that there is a reason why I shouldn't.
Yes.
Even though I think you're a wonderful man. But if you don't trust that, it gives me hints that I also shouldn't. And so this is all very subtle and very unconscious.
Sure.
But when men start trusting each other, I can feel the relaxation in your body right now, sitting in front of me. I can feel your body drop. And I can trust this body because this body trusts itself and itself. And so it changes the relationship of man with man, but also it will change the relationship of men and women.
For sure, Bella.
And men and younger women, fathers and daughters, so that the father doesn't have to mistrust every boy that comes around your girl. Because that's when you don't trust yourself.
Beautiful, Valentina. Beautiful, and that's exactly it. I mean, and I referred to the Prague situation earlier with another setup where this happened with me, is that, and I won't go into too much detail, but where I was connecting with a woman there, and she was connecting with another guy, actually a long-term partner for a long time, and it's in a book. And on one of the days, it became quite clear that she's just been with the guy just before, and I won't go into the detail there. I think read that part is quite a sensitive part. I think in a podcast it's better to read it than to put it over, but how I came aware. But when I became aware of it, I kind of, and then afterwards she left and I walked down the river again, and I could have gone either way. I could have gone like, oh wow, that was disgusting, or I could have gone the other way, and I didn't know what to do, what was going to come up. I just went, I'll go for a walk, let's see what comes in. And good God, what came flooding in to me, and remember now, I was this alpha male, very much my woman is my woman kind of space before. But as I walked down the river, and remember, I've never met this guy before. As I walked down the river, I just felt such love for this guy.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Because I realized, well, it's not crazy now looking at it, but before it would have been. Because I then felt, but listen, I'm connecting with this beautiful woman. She's connecting with this long-term, as a long-term partner of hers also. So him and I are connected.
Yeah.
We were anyway brothers, but now we're brothers at an even closer level.
Yeah.
So rather than going to the alpha male kind of thing of, oh, wow, my heart opened and I felt, and I wrote this and my publisher went like, wow, Len, this is quite out there.
Beautiful piece.
Maybe we should take this out and,
I'm glad you kept it in.
And luckily I have Melinda Ferguson, she's just an amazing publisher. She's an amazing, wonderful author in her own regard. And we discussed it and I said I wanted to keep it in and she was happy with that. And so I'm also glad I think I kept it in.
I think it's such a point because it's almost like coming full circle and give meaning to this experience. For me, I saw that this happened because you had this experience of being penetrated from a woman and then from a man, and then this fear of man dissipated, and then there is no more competition. And there is no need to fight with your brother, but actually when you really come together, you become stronger.
That's
and
exactly.
So in that sense, you knew more love There was more ability and a possibility to love inside your body,
Yes.
because your body got opened to life.
Yeah, I think so.
Instead of closing in, and every
Yes.
time, I mean, we say this when people are anal retentive or stuff up their ass, because they're tight, they're disconnected to reality. They
Yes.
dry,
Yes.
they're
Yes.
afraid,
Yes.
they're not supple, they're rigid. And in truth, it's like this, and that's fear. And when we relax in the anus and the fear goes, wow, now I can love more. You could even love a man that was actually having sex with the same woman you were having sex
Exactly,
with. That
exactly.
for the macho jerk would have been
Yeah,
like reason
exactly.
for war.
Yeah,
you
no,
know,
no.
country have been at war because of this.
No, sure.
Which is the most stupid thing, because maybe you should just ask, if your woman choose that, then
Yes.
it's not a problem.
Yes.
It's a good thing, you know. She
Yes,
likes
exactly.
it. But in the past, we're never interested in the pleasure of a woman. It's
Exactly.
just the ego,
That's
the
exactly.
battered ego of the man.
Yeah,
And
then-
here, for me, this is the future. You know, instead of having war, it was like, hey, buddy, we must very possibly like each other, because
Yes.
this woman is choosing us both. So there must be something in each of one of us that it's a potential for connection.
Yes.
Eh,
And we were joking about it. Well, not really joking. I suppose joking, but we were saying that we can foresee the day, and I really can see that. I'm kind of, I don't know. I always had it in business, and I still have it now. I've got an intuition of where life is going and how we're going to live in the future. I just kind of know things. It's very strange. It's very interesting, and that's why I was good at business. But I can foresee a time, and we were joking it as part of this training, where, let's say, everyone in the Europe, for example, the European Parliament, at least once a week get a sacred spot massage. All
Oh,
the men
yes.
there.
Yes.
Yeah, all the men,
Yes.
not just European Parliament, also in the Senate in America,
Yes,
and
to
in
inform
Russia
politics.
and whatever. So that everyone gets like a sacred spot massage, once a week or before big meetings or something like that.
Yeah. That's
they
evolutionary.
yeah, because the saying "you're a tight ass." I mean, there's a reason,
Yeah.
So people hold so much tension and pressure there. So I can really see
Because when
that.
we are afraid, we make different choices, and the choices are aggressive often, because we protect.
It comes out of fear, and it doesn't
Yeah.
come from love.
Yeah. And there's always an enemy out there, and and wow, that's the future I foresee. Well, I don't know if it's ever going to happen in my lifetime, but it's my dream world. That's how I imagine a very enlightened community would live. And that's when I think about Khajuraho, those temples in India where everybody just make love. We've got all this figurine outside the temple of people making love wildly in groups of 3 or 4, even with animals, bestiality.
Sure.
And it's so expressed. And sometimes I really sit there thinking, who were these people? Because, there was a very advanced culture. And suddenly they disappear too, and in my mind I think there were other intelligence that came from outer space, other reality. They gave us a lot of instruction how to live in the body.
Sure.
They gave us the Veda, they gave us the Tantras.
Yep.
They educate us on the potential of this body.
Yep.
And sexuality, it's a celebration of being alive, and when it's practiced with that awareness, expand the creative mind. And then politics and how do you say, architecture and intellectuality and engineering and science, all this activity of the intelligence can be informed by the creativity of our sexuality. And then would really serve us as human. Because when you're fulfilled sexually, there is no part in the body that would make any choice that goes against the evolution of this body.
Sure, no, exactly. You live from creative spirit instead of from fear and vulnerability and survival mode.
Yeah.
It changes everything. Huh?
Yeah. And so, Yeah, wow, what a wonderful world.
Let's hope it's in our lifetimes, but if it
Yeah.
not that's also okay.
Yeah, that's also okay. We live forever anyway. We
Yeah,
will see that.
exactly.
We come from there. Or we created in our reality. I also
Sure.
believe, here we are, me and you understand this, and,
Sure.
we constantly bring this in our life, and that's all that matters.
Sure, well, that's what I'm living.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't watch news and read the stuff,
Yeah.
and because I mean, why, and I even got my mom off the stuff. What does it matter to what sense does it make to see what's happening in America and the Middle East? She's like
When we are
78, and she's here and she's
Yeah.
close to the sea. She's got to go look at the sea.
Yeah.
So I very much, I kind of lived that reality in a way already.
And I wanted to get you to talk a little bit about how the book ends, because I've also felt it was quite beautiful how it ends with the death of your father. So again, there is this journey through masculinity. That's how I see it in the book, and the way you sit with him, it's so tender, and perhaps, do you think you were able to be so present with him because you explore your sexuality as a man in those years previous to his dying, very close to his dying, and then there was a presence in your body and a lack of fear to be able to be tender with another man?
Sure.
Because some son and father relationship are quite hard.
Sure,
Also,
sure.
especially in this country,
Sure.
where we had to be stoic until the end. And is that true? And I felt it was so tender how you spoke about that passage. And for me, it was like the real pearl. Because I mean, also, sex and sexuality is to teach us how to be human. It's not
exactly.
to his own end.
No, it's exactly it.
Then we can be
Sure.
really present in what life brings us.
No, for sure. I mean, if that happened, his death happened, let's say prior to this 5 years ago, I would have handled it totally different. I mean, I've got no doubt about it. I had the question the other day, and I would have been very, sad. It would be difficult to handle it. And me and my dad luckily had a great relationship, and me and my mom also. I'm very blessed that, I mean, we all have our stuff from childhood, obviously, and family stuff and siblings and my father stuff. But generally speaking, I really had a great relationship with him. So even I will always, as it's talking, as I wrote in the book, we were in a good space. But, he was part of the silent generation, another guy that talked about his emotions, a real kind of macho guy. And we played golf together and went hunting, and, we had and drank, beers and whiskey together. And so very much in that space. And so not much, the silent generation talking about this stuff, but on the surface level, kind of quite very connected and so on. But then, when this death happened after this 5-7 year on this journey, it was just so different. I mean, I actually, I was saying the other day, and I wasn't, when he died, I wasn't sad. I don't get sad when people die anymore. I mean, there's a tenderness, but there's not the sadness of that and a loss and all of that. I mean, he was 78. He had a beautiful life. Him and I had a beautiful, we had a great relationship. We had good times, good times, bad times, but we had a beautiful times together in this physical reality. And when he left this reality, it was just, he was just moving to another form. So there's no loss really. And I felt the next day, and especially, and I still feel him. I actually feel him in the room now. And I felt the next day, and then I went up the coast, the West Coast, finishing the book, and I could feel him around me. And that's when I wrote actually that chapter. It was like a few weeks after he died. I wrote one of the last chapters, and second or third last chapter. And I could feel him around him, and I was in such an immense body knowledge that in a way nothing has really changed. He's still there. Maybe his physical body isn't here, but he was also sick this last few years. He was in bed and so on, but his essence is is here, and our spirits are there, and and then couple of days before he passed, that discussion we had. I mean, I'll leave it in the book, not expand maybe too much on it unless you want me to.
Yeah, you're not. You can share it.
Shall I share it?
Yeah. Share it. I think it's such a beautiful piece.
Okay. So he asked me, one day, and this is, and I mean, he was really kind of on his last legs, Parkinson's, advanced cancer, and but still quite his mind, still quite awake. And then one day he just asked me, it was just me and him in a room, and he asked me, on my journeys around the world, the last 5 years around the world and all of that, and I obviously know what I was doing in this whole spiritual awakening path. He asked me, so have you found out where do we go when we leave this earth? And wow, I was like, as I say, a silent generation guy. He never spoke about it, emotions and stuff. So that was really a question that we, me and my mom would talk about things like that, but me and my dad would talk about business and about, maybe the golf course and so on. But, and I was just so taken, and I could see the vulnerability in him and asking that question. And I also could see that he was very scared. So for him to just ask that question coming from where he was coming, the silent generation, kind of macho guy, macho in a healthy masculine kind of way, very much as quiet, strong, silent masculine. But I knew that for him to ask that was quite a thing to ask. I could just, I gave him the answer. I answered him and basically just said to him, there's nothing he has to do. He's before dying. All the stuff we were told about heaven and earth and all of that, that's all bullshit. And we are perfect as we are. We come to this world perfect as we are, and he's perfect as he is, and that his spirit won't die, and neither would my spirit die, and that our spirits will always be together.
I think it was so beautiful that he asked for wisdom to you, to the son, because in that generation also, and they had to keep it up that they knew everything and never showed their vulnerability.
Sure.
And it feels to me that he could sense that you knew. When we come to this open awareness, we feed everybody around us. So like you changed, and your father also had a hint of expansion, because you opened up, and the vulnerability to ask you for wisdom. I felt that was what a beautiful piece, that as he died, you could pass some wisdom to him. It's like this giving back, and because we are born and they're there and they teach us all we know. And to be able, I think, it's a privilege for a parent to perhaps die in the presence of your children, so that they can be there when you pass on, because they were there when we arrived. And now we can be here when they pass on and pass a new piece of wisdom. You have the upgrade. I thought that was such a beautiful way to, organic way to end the journey in your book.
Oh, okay.
And you touch into money, business, sex, and death, which are the biggest taboo,
yes.
and source of wisdom, and the threshold, the biggest teaching we have to work with in our life. So I think to add that piece on that was really powerful in your book, because it really grounded the journey with sexuality, which is about living and dying.
Sure.
We call the orgasm a great death.
Yes.
Not for nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, no, thanks, V.
Yeah, wonderful. So I think maybe this is a good place to close this time together. Hey?
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you. It's.
So if anybody would like to get in touch with you, where would they find you? Are you available for connection? Do you offer session work for men, perhaps? I'm just throwing it there. If you haven't, you maybe could consider.
I've had a lot of people.
Some mentorship program for men.
Yeah, and for women, it's interesting. I find a lot of women are this book relates to a lot of women. It's really interesting, not just men. A lot of, well, not interesting. I think it's kind of suppose logical in a way, and a lot of, I think there's probably more women readers than men readers, but the book found their way to the men via their women, which I find that seems to be beautiful. I'm very much open to exploring, doing some, been asked to do some workshops, and I've done some, with couples and on the sexuality space, and also open, people are just from a guiding, coaching, magician kind of way, people transforming, transformation happening to them, similar that has happened to me. I wish I had someone to speak to when this was happening to me 5-7 years ago. So I'm very much open to that. I'm very much an open vessel for the energy of the universe to take me wherever, for life to live me. And so I'm open to a lot of this stuff.
That was also a beautiful piece that I love you speaking about that, because I'm going through the same piece when, all this self-help work that we have now, there is this very strong stress in having a vision, know what you want and go for it, which perhaps has its place. I'm not saying it doesn't work. But for me, in my temperament and my personality, I'm like you say, I'd rather be open for life to leave me. I feel like an open vessel, and yes, I've got preference, which dictate my yes and my no, which will dictate the path, but also like you, not big on having a great vision ahead and aiming to get it, but rather just see what life wants me, how it wants me to move, and
that's it, exactly. More surrender to life than control, in a way. I mean, I lived it in the other way, and no complaints. It worked brilliantly. I mean, I had goals, but also saying that, I kind of was also kind of open to stuff happening before, and in the business space. But it was more about being control and with some goals, and not overly so. But there was a bit more directing and destinations and stuff. Whilst. Yeah, now I'm very much more in a receptive surrender space, as you say, and I'm living it now. It's a bit of a dance, So I've been very much in that open surrender space the last year, seeing what life is bringing me. But I find it's also a dance, and some stuff you need to action to put yourself into the space of, of the next thing. So I'm busy with that dance, and that's a beautiful. Oh, isn't it? The beautiful exploration of life and living and the magic of the universe, and to be open to the magic. And not get too. I agree with you. And I mean, and once again, different strokes for different folks. But I just feel that I now have this kind of mission, this goal, this destination. I'm going. What other beautiful opportunities I'm going to miss out that the universe want to bring to me? If I get too stuck on one thing now, that when I get, then I'm really open and receptive more to the world and the universe and energy coming to me. I mean, I think the book is one thing that I feel. And I felt it again a few days ago when someone said to me, it was very much not in a spirituality space, and said, wow, I mean, the language in the book and, the very simple, straightforward talking, like really cracking him open and starting a journey for him. And then I realized I actually, and it's not even about me it's not even an ego thing, but I really want to get this book should be get out there more. So I'm taking it international in February. I want to take it overseas and see where that goes. And,
So the book is called Jump, and where is on Amazon also?
Yes, it's on all the bookstores in South Africa. Exclusive Books and Bargain Books and Wordsworth, all the major bookstores. Very grateful that I always wanted to be traditionally published. So it's out there, and I believe with Melinda Ferguson, we did a beautiful product, crazy yellow color. It's going to be
crazy yellow color.
Crazy yellow color with a jump on the front with a little man jumping off the word jump.
And if people wants to get in touch with you personally, can I put down your email in the description of this episode?
Yes, please do. It's
and you're open for connection.
I'm open for connection. Yes, I mean there's a my website is leonardlouw.com.
Okay, I'm going to put that also in the description of cool. This episode.
Cool. Perfect. So I just add the Amazon thing.
Yeah, tell us about the Amazon.
Yes, and apart from the bookstores, it's also available on Amazon.com. Both the Kindle and the paperback. For the international edition, the paperback is also there for people from overseas that want the book itself. It's available there, and then obviously the Kindle also. And it's just under Jump and Leonard Low with my crazy spelling, Lenerd, and then Low, Louw.
And can I entice you to tell us why did you call it Jump? Because it only came at the really end of the book. So I think it's a beautiful story, that tale. Would you like to share it? Can I entice you to share it, or you want to keep it as a surprise for the reader? Because then I've got another question for you. You can choose.
Beautiful. I can share that briefly. So the thing at the end of the book was only, so I'll leave that as a surprise, because that was really only came out later after I found the title Jump.
Yeah.
So the story in the end about the cafe at the edge.
Cafe at the edge.
That only came out later. I thought, wow, that's a good story to link in there. Now the word Jump really came. I really had. You're going to really laugh now, but my working title that I gave to my publisher was The Monk Who Sold His Jacuzzi. There's a lot about jacuzzis. So me and my Melinda went back and forth about what's the title of this book, and then I just wrote a little paragraph. And I said to Ismail, let's just talk about what this book is about. And I wrote it and I sent it. And she came back and said, wow, Jump. And I went, wow, you're brilliant. And she said, no, look at what you've written. Yeah. You've written it in the copy. And what I've written in the copy was, I was talking about, we are busy jumping into a new consciousness.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting?
Yeah.
So that's actually how it's a jump. Okay. It's an inner jump into myself and all of that. But it actually, the word came out when I wrote to her, it's about a lot of, the jump into this higher consciousness that we're going into.
So we're leaving the story of the cafe at the edge, which I really love for the readers. And that's another reason I thought that really linked to the title Jump. So read the book to the end until you find the story of the cafe at the edge. And so I generally have two standard questions amongst this conversation that I'm having on this podcast. And the one is if you can share a moment of erotic awakening, but I'm not going to ask you this question because your whole book speaks about your erotic awakening, I think. So I leave the people to read the book, and that's really, it's about your erotic awakening. And so the other question that then we can just wrap up this time together is, in your opinion, in your experience, is life a dream, or dream help us to live better?
Or what's the second part?
It's life a dream, or dreams help us to live better?
Is life a dream?
Or
does dreams help us
to live better?
God, I don't know.
Could be both.
It could be both. I don't know.
Do you think life is a dream, or it's more real than your dream, or the dream are more real than your life? Can you dream your life?
Yeah, I think you can. I think maybe it's both, and maybe it's opt-out, but I think it's both. I think we come here to experience this amazing thing, and we come here with a pre-planned dream, but whilst we're in the dream, I think we can almost change the dream also, almost like, like what the lucid dreaming, the lucid dreaming when you're dreaming and know you're dreaming and you can direct it. I think kind of that's the way I see it. We're here to really experience life and experience this dream,
So life is a lucid dream.
Life is a lucid dream, maybe. Maybe there's the answer. And I think what I'm trying to do is just to live it. Yeah. And I don't think that's what we're here to experience, and not to ask. I kind of don't ask too many questions anymore. I'm just really try to be as present as I can in this lucid dream.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, thank you. That's really beautiful chatting with you. And as you speak here, all this flashback from your book come up again that I really resonated with. Also, you mentioned this at one point. People look for answer too much, and they forget that the living is the answer. Sure. It's not going into a mental state of describing too much what life is about, but living it fully.
Sure, exactly. Agree.
So awesome. Thank you so much for saying yes and to be here with us. And I hope your book really make a great success and awaken so many more people. So we will have sacred spot massage in the parliament.
Thanks, Valentina. I really enjoyed this. It's beautiful talking to you. It was wonderful being in your energy. I'm very grateful. Thanks for that.
Yeah,
Love you
wonderful.
madly.
Yeah. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.